very scary, true desert horror story. Alex Rivera had been driving across the Mojave Desert for 3 hours when his truck's engine began to sputter. It was 2:47 p.m. on a scorching August afternoon. The temperature gauge outside reading 112 degrees Fahrenheit, and the nearest town was still 40 miles away. No, 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 Alex muttered, pumping the gas pedal as the truck lost power. He managed to coast to the shoulder of the empty highway before the engine died completely. Alex sat in the rapidly heating cab, staring at the endless expanse of sand, rock, and scrub brush stretching in every direction. He was a nature photographer on his way to Death Valley, traveling alone, and his phone showed 0 bars of service. He hadn't seen another car in over an hour. After checking under the hood and confirming what he'd suspected, blown radiator hose, coolant everywhere, Alex faced a grim reality. He could wait for help that might not come for hours in this heat, or he could start walking toward the town he'd passed through that morning, hoping to flag down a passing vehicle. He grabbed his backpack, 2 bottles of water, his phone, and a wide-brimmed hat. Leaving a note on the dashboard explaining his plan, Alex started walking back the way he'd come, staying on the shoulder of the highway where the asphalt met the desert. The heat was suffocating. Within minutes, Alex was drenched in sweat. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the reflected heat from the road made the air shimmer and dance. He took small sips of water, trying to conserve his supply. After walking for about 30 minutes, Alex noticed something strange. In the distance, about 100 yards off the highway, there appeared to be a structure, maybe an old building or abandoned mining facility. It shimmered in the heat, difficult to make out clearly, but it looked solid enough to offer shade. Alex debated. The smart thing was to stay on the highway where passing cars could see him. But the building might have water, might have shade, might even have a working phone or radio. And he could see no cars in either direction. The highway stretched empty to the horizon. The heat made the decision for him. Alex climbed over the low barrier and headed toward the structure, his feet sinking slightly in the loose sand with each step. As he got closer, the building came into sharper focus. It was an old house, or rather, what remained of one. 2 stories, constructed of weathered wood and adobe, with broken windows and a sagging roof. It looked like it had been abandoned for decades, probably a homesteader's dwelling from the early 1900s. "Hello," Alex called out as he approached, though he didn't expect an answer. "Anyone here?" The silence was absolute, not even the sound of wind or insects, just dead, heavy silence that pressed against Alex's ears like cotton. He stepped through the open doorway into what had once been a living room. The temperature inside was marginally cooler, and Alex felt immediate relief from the direct sunlight. Dust covered every surface, and debris littered the floor. Broken furniture, faded newspapers, shards of glass. Alex found a relatively clear spot against the wall and sat down, taking a longer drink of water this time. He'd rest for 10 minutes, let his body cool down, then head back to the highway. Maybe by then a car would have passed. That's when he heard it. Footsteps on the floor above him. Slow, deliberate footsteps moving across the second floor directly overhead. Alex froze, his water bottle halfway to his lips. The footsteps continued, crossing from one side of the ceiling to the other, then back again, pacing. "Hello," Alex called out, his voice cracking slightly. "Is someone up there?" The footsteps stopped. In the silence that followed, Alex heard something else. Breathing, heavy, raspy breathing coming from the floor above, as if someone was standing at the top of the stairs, listening. Alex stood up slowly, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. "I don't mean to intrude. My truck broke down on the highway. I just needed some shade." The breathing continued, and now Alex could hear something else beneath it. A wet, gurgling sound, like someone drowning or trying to speak through fluid-filled lungs. "I'm leaving now," Alex said, backing toward the door. "I'm sorry for her." A sound from upstairs cut him off. Not footsteps this time, but something being dragged across the floor. Something heavy. And then a voice, so faint Alex almost didn't hear it. "Don't leave, stay." The voice was wrong. It sounded like multiple people speaking in unison, their voices overlapping but not quite synchronized. And beneath the words was that terrible gurgling, as if the speakers were drowning while they talked. Alex ran. He bolted out of the house and into the blazing desert heat, not looking back, his heart hammering in his chest. He'd made it about 50 yards when he heard the front door of the house slam open behind him. Alex risked a glance over his shoulder and immediately wished he hadn't. Things were emerging from a house. Not people. Things that might have been people once, but weren't anymore. They moved in a jerky, disjointed way, like marionettes controlled by a drunk puppeteer. There were 3 of them, and their skin had the desiccated appearance of ancient mummies, stretched tight over visible bones. Their mouths hung open in permanent screams, and their eyes were black voids that somehow still seemed to be staring directly at Alex. They weren't fast, but they were moving toward him with terrible purpose. Alex ran harder, his lungs burning in the superheated air, his boots slipping in the sand. He could hear them behind him, could hear that awful gurgling breathing getting closer. But the highway seemed impossibly far away, the shimmering asphalt receding like a mirage no matter how fast he ran. Then Alex tripped. His foot caught on a rock hidden in the sand, and he went down hard, sprawling face first into the scorching desert floor. He rolled onto his back, preparing to face whatever was chasing him, and saw nothing. The 3 figures had stopped about 30 yards away, standing perfectly still at an invisible boundary. They swayed slightly, like plants in a breeze, their black void eyes fixed on Alex. But they came no closer. Alex scrambled to his feet, not taking his eyes off them. He took a step backward toward the highway. The figures didn't follow. Another step, another, and still they remained at that invisible line, unable or unwilling to cross it. Understanding dawned on Alex. They couldn't leave the area immediately surrounding the house. They were bound to it somehow, trapped within a certain radius. But they were still watching him, and as Alex continued backing away, he heard them speak again in that horrible chorus of overlapping voices. "You'll come back, they all come back. The desert makes them..." Alex turned and ran the rest of the way to the highway, not stopping until his feet hit the blessed pavement. Only then did he look back. The house was gone. Alex blinked, certain the heat was causing hallucinations. But no, where the abandoned house had stood just minutes ago, there was now only empty desert. No structure, no ruins, no evidence that anything had ever been there. What the hell? Alex whispered, his hand shaking. A sound made him jump. A car engine. Alex spun around to see a pickup truck approaching from the direction he'd originally been heading. He waved frantically, and the truck pulled over. An elderly man rolled down his window, concern on his weathered face. "You all right, son? Looks like you've seen a ghost." "My truck broke down," Alex managed, his voice hoarse. "A few miles back. But there was a house out there in the desert, and things inside it." The old man's expression changed, becoming grim. How far out was this house? Maybe 100 yards off the highway. 2-story, adobe and wood, looked really old. The old man was silent for a moment, then sighed. "You're not the first to see it. Hell, you're probably not even the first this year. The desert plays tricks, especially in heat like this. Mirages, they call them. But some of us who've lived out here our whole lives, we know better." "What do you mean?" "That house you saw, it's been gone for 70 years. Burned down in 1953. 4 people died in the fire, trapped inside when the stairs collapsed. Their bodies were never recovered. The fire was too intense, burned too hot. Nothing but ash and sand left. The old man paused. But people still see it. Always in the hottest part of the day. Always when they're alone. And those who get too close, sometimes they see the residents. Still trying to escape that fire. Still calling for help. Alex felt his skin crawl despite the heat. But they chased me. They came after me. Did they cross on the highway? No. They stopped before they got here. The old man nodded. They never do. Can't leave the place where they died. But they don't like to be alone. See, everyone who dies in the desert, we all end up alone in the end. They were just trying to keep you with them, so they wouldn't be alone anymore. Alex climbed into the passenger seat of the truck, grateful for the air conditioning and human company. The old man drove him back to his broken-down truck and helped him get it towed to the nearest town. But as they drove past the spot where Alex had left the highway to approach the house, he looked out at the empty desert, and there, for just a moment, he saw it again, that two-story structure shimmering in the heat, and standing in every window, those desiccated figures, watching the highway, waiting for the next person foolish enough to seek shelter from the desert sun. Alex never traveled alone through the desert again, and he never, ever approached an abandoned structure no matter how inviting it looked or how desperately he needed shade, because he learned that day that the desert holds more than heat and emptiness. It holds the ghosts of everyone who died there, everyone who perished alone under that merciless sun. And those ghosts don't want to be alone anymore. They're still out there, in that house that burns every day but never turns to ash, calling out to travelers, promising shade and shelter and rest. But what they really offer is company, eternal company, to join them in their endless dying, their endless burning, their endless solitude. The desert keeps its dead, and sometimes the dead try to keep you too. 6 months later, Alex received a call from the old man who'd rescued him. Another traveler had gone missing on that same stretch of highway. They'd found his car abandoned, with a note saying he was walking toward an old house he'd spotted in the desert, about 100 yards from the road. Search parties found no trace of him. No body, no tracks, nothing. But local residents reported seeing a new figure in the windows of the phantom house, a younger man, standing among the others, his mouth open in a permanent scream, his eyes black voids, watching the highway and waiting for someone else to come seeking shelter from the heat. The desert doesn't forgive, and it never, ever forgets.